Hey, what you doing there?
Playing the new wrestling game.
It's been over a week. It's time to get back up in the saddle and make some more videos.
But look, they have Shawn Michaels from 2009.
Fascinating. Look, if you don't stop playing that game and start working on some videos, I'm gonna go shit in your sink.
You wouldn't. Fine, I'll make the damn video.
Hoorah!
I got into wrestling the way that most people do. Through SmackDown vs. Raw 2010 on the Nintendo DS. I didn't know shit about who this Triple H person was, but it sure was a fun game. I would then proceed to ignore wrestling for the next 7 years until I picked up the DS game again, and had the sudden urge to spend hours watching Jeff Hardy matches on YouTube, and from then on I was a surefire WWE fan. Conveniently, 2K18 was the current game at the time, and Jeff Hardy had just made his return to video games after being away for a while, so it was like a match made in heaven. After suffering through the Switch version of 2K18 for a couple months, I would eventually get a PS4 and pick up 2K19. Since then, I've picked up every WWE 2K game and played them all to death. I've probably got at least 1,000+ hours in all of them combined.
Dear Lord, you need to get out more and maybe get yourself a lady friend.
I will have you know that I do have a lady friend, and she reluctantly puts up with my wrestling addiction. She even lets me display my figures.
This video was supposed to come out 2 months ago and be about the original SmackDown vs. Raw, but my copy shit the bed and I've got pretty bad luck with PS2 games, so I just scrapped the video entirely. Now, with the release of 2K24, I'm back in a wrestling mood, so I thought instead of tackling the SmackDown vs. Raw series, I figured I'd just start with the 2K series with WWE 2K14. Back in 2013, wrestling games were at their peak. Just coming off the end of the universally acclaimed SmackDown vs. Raw series and WWE 12 and 13, it was almost guaranteed that the newest game would be just as good. Most wrestling fans didn't know it at the time, but this was kind of the end of an era for WWE games. They were going to start being published by 2K, and 2K14 would be the last game in this classic style because the game had already been developed before 2K hopped on board, so it still had the things that everybody loved. Before we hop into 2K14, I want to give my quick thoughts on 2K24 since I put this video off for a week to play it.
Gosh darn it, boy! I thought I told you to stay off that game!
It's just for a second. I'm still working on the damn video.
Better be. Them bills don't pay themselves.
We don't make any money off these anyway.
I'm gonna go shit in your sink.
WWE 2K24 is about what you'd expect. 2K has the reputation of copy-pasting all their games every year, and that's not necessarily wrong, but this game adds quite a few little things that make this one of the best in my opinion. First off, they've updated the Create a moveset to now include the ability to assign 5 signatures and finishers each. And for wrestlers like John Cena who have tons of finishers, this is great. They've also added a new thing called Super Finishers. They require 3 regular finishers to perform, and the only thing they really do is bypass your opponent's resilience ability, which allows them to kick out of a pin instantly. It's not really a huge, super useful thing, but I think it's cool nonetheless. 2K also added quite a few new match types, which is rare for this series. They've added 3 types of gauntlet matches, casket matches, and ambulance matches, which have never appeared in a game ever.
Actually, it was in the DS version of SmackDown vs. Raw 2010 on the DS.
Other than that, they've got the other game modes that I never play or care about, like My Faction or My Rise, but the creation suite is just as large and diverse as ever, so that keeps me entertained for hours. Unfortunately, I've run into tons of glitches, but I guess that's normal for the launch of a new 2K game. If they get those ironed out, it'll probably be one of the best games in the series. The game was heavily advertised with the 40 Years of WrestleMania Showcase mode, and
this was the worst part of the game for me.
I'm gonna try to be brief with this. First off, the presentation is butchered with all of the censoring and the cutscenes with the things that they don't have the rights to anymore. Speaking of cutscenes, they're mostly just cuts to the actual live-action footage of the actual match, and it takes me out of the experience so quickly because of all the censoring and differences from what the game actually looks like. The gameplay isn't any better. It's a series of tasks, one after another, and it's all random bullshit that isn't relevant to the historical match, so that makes it feel like pointless busy work. There's no commentary either, just random terrible music, and it makes the matches feel like they take forever. It was a nightmare just going back to record one match for the video because these are so long and boring. I'm probably never gonna play this mode again.
Are you going to talk about the actual topic of this video now?
Are you gonna talk about the topic of the actual video? Yeah, I'll play the damn game.
This is gonna be a lot. This game has tons of modes and things to do. Let's start off with 30 Years of WrestleMania and why it's so much better than the 40 Years from 2K24. This mode is very similar to the 40 Years showcase being about big matches from WrestleMania. However, instead of having 20-ish randomly selected matches from Random Manias like the 2K24 mode, the 2K14 mode has 41 matches and features at least one match from every single WrestleMania up to that point. This means we get to witness Shawn Michaels transition from his hoe phase to being a child of God. Just to drive home how much content this is, I'm gonna list every single match in this mode. Alright, here we go. Andre the Giant vs. Big John Studd at WrestleMania 1. Hulk Hogan vs. King Kong Bundy at WrestleMania 2. Ricky Steamboat vs. Macho Man at WrestleMania 3. Hulk Hogan vs. Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. Macho Man Randy Savage vs. Ted DiBiase at WrestleMania 4. Hulk Hogan vs. Macho Man Randy Savage at WrestleMania 5. Ultimate Warrior vs. Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 6. Hulk Hogan vs. Sergeant Slaughter at WrestleMania 7. Macho Man Randy Savage vs. Ric Flair at WrestleMania 8. Yokozuna vs. Bret Hart at WrestleMania 9. Razor Ramon vs. Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 10. Bret Hart vs. Yokozuna at WrestleMania 10. Undertaker vs. King Kong Bundy at WrestleMania 11. Shawn Michaels vs. Diesel at WrestleMania 11. Undertaker vs. Diesel at WrestleMania 12. Shawn Michaels vs. Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12. Bret Hart vs. Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13. Undertaker vs. Kane at WrestleMania 14. Stone Cold Steve Austin vs. The Rock at WrestleMania 15. Triple H vs. The Rock vs. Big Show vs. Mick Foley at WrestleMania 16. Stone Cold Steve Austin vs. The Rock at WrestleMania 17. The Rock vs. Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18. Triple H vs. Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 18. Shawn Michaels vs. Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 19. The Rock vs. Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 19. John Cena vs. The Big Show at WrestleMania 20. Goldberg vs. Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 20. John Cena vs. JBL at WrestleMania 21. Edge vs. Mick Foley at WrestleMania 22. Undertaker vs. Batista at WrestleMania 23. John Cena vs. Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 23. Shawn Michaels vs. Ric Flair at WrestleMania 24. Orton vs. Cena vs. Triple H at WrestleMania 24. John Cena vs. Edge vs. Big Show at WrestleMania 25. Triple H vs. Randy Orton at WrestleMania 25. Chris Jericho vs. Edge at WrestleMania 26. John Cena vs. Batista at WrestleMania 26. Undertaker vs. Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 26. Edge vs. Alberto Del Rio at WrestleMania 27. The Miz vs. John Cena at WrestleMania 27. Undertaker vs. Triple H at WrestleMania 28. CM Punk vs. Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 28. The Rock vs. John Cena at WrestleMania 28. Undertaker vs. CM Punk at WrestleMania 29. Triple H vs. Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 29. And John Cena vs. The Rock at WrestleMania 29.
Looks like he's trying for a pin here. That's 3 Cena wins.
You really need to go outside.
I thought you were shitting in the damn sink.
Oh, believe me, I am. Don't you worry about that.
There's always a short little text explanation of the story relevant to the match that you can read so you're never lost as to what's going on, and sometimes there's even video packages before the matches to hype up the event. This mode also has objectives that you need to complete, but unlike 2K24, most of the time all of the objectives are laid out at the start of the match so you can tackle them at your own pace, and most of them are open-ended. For example, some of them are hit your finisher or do a certain amount of damage. These are both things that you do over the course of a regular match, so you can accomplish these objectives however you want. When there are more specific objectives, they're usually related to something that actually happened in the match, and they often lead to in-engine cutscenes, and they're always entertaining to watch. One thing this game is really good about is accuracy. When you play as a wrestler from the past, you'll use that exact outfit they had, and if they had different entrance music, then they'll have that too. I think this is especially cool because it allows you to have one of Bret Hart's older theme songs that I like, and Randy Orton's Burn in My Light theme song in the game.
You best not be playing any of that wrestling music and getting us hit with any of that copyright.
We'll be fine.
Don't worry, I'll get it.
What was that?
I ain't worried about it.
Moving on from 30 years of WrestleMania, let's talk about the main gameplay and match types. Your main goal of most matches is to pin your opponent down for a 3 count. You do this by dealing damage with strikes, grapples, diving moves, or hitting signatures and finishers. Signatures and finishers do the most damage, and hitting a finisher increases the chance that your opponent will stay down, so it should be a priority to hit those. You build up this meter under your wrestler by doing damage to your opponent, and once it's full, you have a set amount of time to hit your signature. If you successfully hit a signature, you gain access to a finisher that you can perform at any time. Even if you don't hit your signature during the time limit, you still get a finisher after the timer runs out anyway. One of the newer mechanics to this series is the comeback. When you take enough damage, certain wrestlers will gain access to their comeback move. If you hit it, then you'll have to do a quick time event minigame, and if you complete it, then you'll instantly fill up your signature bar. This is still a thing in the newer games, however, in the new games you can't reverse the minigame if your opponent hits you with a comeback. In this game, it's actually about who presses the button first to see who gets the advantage. The core gameplay feels fast and smooth, however I do have one problem with it. In order to do a grapple, you have to lock up first by pressing the grapple button, and then pressing the grapple button again to actually perform a move. In later games like 2K19, you just press the grapple button with a direction to do a move right away, and I will always prefer that method of grapples in the WWE games. When talking about match type variety, it's hard to find a game that has more than this one. This game has almost everything. We've got normal, tag, ladder, Hell in a Cell, Steel Cage, Royal Rumble, table, special guest referee, I Quit match, Inferno, backstage brawl, TLC, and just about everything in between. These matches have been fine-tuned for years and years in other games, so most of them are just as fun, if not more so, than regular matches. My favorite matches are anything involving elimination, just because I've always found that stipulation entertaining.
Does it have an exploding barbed wire death match?
Excuse me?
A cowboy exploding barbed wire butt touching death match.
Moving on, let's look at the creation suite, and this game has got it pretty good. Starting off with Create a Superstar, I was surprised at how good this actually was. One of the things I was shocked to see was parts from superstars in older games that aren't in this one, like this is clearly Jeff Hardy's hair from SmackDown vs. Raw 2010. It's got plenty of options from shirts, pants, accessories, all that. One cool thing that this game has that even the newer games don't have is you can change the length of any selectable hairstyle. Unfortunately, most of the preset faces are god-awful, and I don't like wasting time messing with face dimensions, so most of my guys just look like angry cavemen. Also, I think it's kinda obnoxious how you navigate these menus, like accessing all the layers in one menu in order to delete or edit stuff feels awkward, and I'm not a huge fan. Despite that, I was able to accomplish my goal of creating the Game Grumps in every WWE game here to some mixed results. One of the coolest things about this game is you can import music from your console into the game so you can have custom entrance themes or custom music in the menus, so I spent a good 40 minutes downloading songs onto my 360 just for this game. Fortunately, my CD collection has grown quite a bit over the years. This game also has Create an Arena and Championship, but I didn't even open these modes because it's just not something that interests me, but it's cool that they're here anyway. This was the last WWE game to have the Create a Special Move feature, and I still miss it to this day. You can create a front grapple, diving move, or corner move. This game gives you a bunch of preset animations that you can mix and match together to create your very own move. They have animations from older wrestling games, so you can create moves from the older games, or you can make something fucking stupid. The last create mode I'm going to talk about is Create a Story. The mode I probably would have spent the most time on if I wasn't making a video. With Create a Story, you can combine a ton of match types and cutscenes that you can customize and organize to create your own WWE story. There's so many different scenes and options to choose from, so you could spend hours in this mode editing every little thing to your liking. You can add text, music, change the cast, lighting, or camera angles. You could create a storyline where Daniel Bryan wants to face The Undertaker at WrestleMania, or one where John Cena goes on a crazy losing streak. Or you could do something stupid like me and make a storyline where Hulk Hogan is racist against Kofi Kingston, or R-Truth is obsessed with The Undertaker's butt, or Shawn Michaels has a strange kicking addiction.
Does it have anything to do with my addiction?
And what addiction would that be? Annoying me all day?
No. You may want to go clean out your sink. It's starting to really smell in here. Okay, I'm leaving.
All we've got left to talk about is Universe Mode. Universe Mode is kinda similar to Create a Story, but instead of focusing on the story, it's more about booking the show and being in charge of everything. Universe Mode does generate itself, so if you want, you can just follow it to your heart's content to see what happens. Or you could be like me and edit every little thing to how you like it. The way it works is you're in charge of every superstar and what show they're on and who's the champions and who is feuding with who and all that stuff. It really is a mode for people who are more into the creation and making things how you want them to be. After you've got everything set up, you can play or simulate your show however you want. You can skip everything and just see the results, or you can play or watch every match on the card. I didn't put much time into this mode here. The only game where I've given it any time was 2K19, and that's because I had so much time to sit there and play that game, and I just don't have that kind of time right now for this one.
Well, that's just about everything, so let's start wrapping up here. Oh yeah, I almost forgot.
Every wrestling fan knows about The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania. At the point of this game's release, he had been undefeated for 21 years, and this built an aura around The Undertaker that made him out to be completely invincible at WrestleMania, so they decided to make a game mode about it called Defeat the Streak. Your goal is simple. Pick a wrestler and beat The Undertaker in a no-holds-barred match, meaning there's no rules. How hard could it be? Undertaker is set on the hardest difficulty, so he'll reverse almost every attack you throw at him, and he's got special abilities specific to this mode. If you hit him with a finisher, he can shut off the lights and appear behind you with a finisher of his own. Sometimes, if he's lying on the ground and you walk by him, he can grab you and put you in his Hell's Gate finisher. The most obnoxious thing is how often he reverses your attacks. It feels like you can't do anything lots of the time, so I'd resort to basic punches that he wouldn't reverse as often, but they don't do tons of damage. It takes at least 3 finishers to put Undertaker down, and it often feels impossible, but I managed to do it 4 separate times.
You cheated, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
If you go into create a moveset and change Undertaker's signatures and finishers to top rope diving moves, then he'll never do them in the match. Therefore, he'll never hit a move big enough to put you down for good. This mode invokes the feeling of watching an Undertaker WrestleMania match, and how we all saw our favorite wrestlers almost put Undertaker down, but he would always kick out, and it was thrilling and entertaining.
gotta be it.
Can you wrap this up? I'm getting kind of tired from watching you work.
I always heard about how good this game was, but I always had my doubts because how could it possibly be better than the newer games and all their new mechanics? WWE 2K14 is the culmination of almost 10 years of WWE games, and it shows in the jaw-dropping amount of content in this game. This game has almost everything a WWE game fan is looking for. Fast and fun gameplay, tons of creation, and an entertaining story mode. For me, it's definitely earned its reputation as one of the best WWE games ever made. The game feels like it had a ton of care and effort put into it, unlike the newest 2K games, like why the fuck does Seth Rollins have a render from 3 years ago? 2K14 felt like a huge landmark for the series, and it became one, even more so because of the failure of the next game in the series, WWE 2K15.
I don't know about you guys, but this game seemed pretty okay to me.
The shoulder, and that should do it. Hooking away. 2, 3. Daniel Bryan got it done.